The whispers started the moment they walked in, the powerful CEO in her designer gown beside the company janitor in a rented tuxedo that didn't quite fit. But when the elderly chairman approached them, tears streaming down his face as he embraced the confused janitor and called him son, the entire ballroom fell silent. No one could have imagined the 30-year-old secret that was about to change everything. If you're moved by stories of unexpected family reunions and second chances, hit that like button now and subscribe to see more life-changing moments that remind us how connected we truly are. Marcus Jenkins adjusted his bow tie for the 5th time, the unfamiliar fabric scratchy against his neck. The mirror in the small bathroom of his one-bedroom apartment reflected a man who looked as uncomfortable as he felt. At 34, he hadn't worn formal attire since his wife's funeral 6 years ago. "Daddy, you look like a penguin." 8-year-old Lily giggled from the doorway, already in her pajamas, her favorite stuffed elephant tucked under one arm. Marcus forced a smile. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing, pumpkin?" "Good. Penguins are handsome." She skipped forward and hugged his legs, careful not to wrinkle his rented tuxedo. "Mrs. Rodriguez is here. She brought cookies." Their elderly neighbor had agreed to watch Lily for the evening, an evening Marcus still couldn't believe was happening. How had he, the night shift janitor at Westlake Industries, ended up with an invitation to the company's prestigious annual gala? The answer walked into his living room moments later. "Mr. Jenkins, the car is waiting downstairs." Victoria Westlake, CEO of Westlake Industries, stood in his doorway looking nothing like the formidable executive who commanded a boardroom. In a midnight blue gown that shimmered when she moved, her usually severe dark hair softened into waves, she seemed almost approachable. "Almost. Ms. Westlake, I still don't understand why." "We've been through this," she interrupted, her tone businesslike despite her elegant appearance. "The board insisted I bring a +1 to the gala, and after you saved my presentation last week, you were the logical choice." What she called saving her presentation had simply been Marcus noticing her laptop battery was about to die during a late-night rehearsal for her investor's pitch. He'd quietly plugged it in while cleaning the conference room, not even sure she'd noticed him. Apparently, she had. "Besides," Victoria continued, checking her diamond watch, "the chairman specifically requested your presence after I mentioned the incident." Marcus knelt to hug Lily goodbye. "Be good for Mrs. Rodriguez, okay? I won't be too late. Bring me cake." Lily whispered loudly in his ear. As the luxury car pulled away from his modest apartment building, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this night would be more than just an uncomfortable social obligation. He had no idea how right he was. The Westlake Industries annual gala transformed the Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom into a glittering showcase of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over tables adorned with arrangements of white roses and silver candelabras. The city's elite mingled, their combined net worth likely exceeding the GDP of a small nation. Marcus felt the stares as Victoria led him through the crowd. He heard the whispers. "Isn't that the janitor? What is Victoria thinking? Must be some kind of charity case." Victoria seemed oblivious, or perhaps indifferent, to the murmurs. She navigated the room with practiced ease, introducing Marcus with the same tone she might use for any colleague. If she noticed how the conversations awkwardly shifted when she mentioned his position at the company, she gave no indication. "Victoria, darling." A woman in her 60s with impeccably styled silver hair approached, air-kissing Victoria's cheeks. "The event is magnificent as always. And who is your guest?" "Margaret, this is Marcus Jenkins. He's part of our facilities management team." "Marcus, Margaret Holloway sits on our board of directors." Marcus extended his hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am." Margaret's smile remained fixed, but her eyes cooled. "How progressive of you, Victoria." She quickly excused herself. "I'm sorry about that," Marcus said quietly. "I'm making things awkward for you." Victoria's expression hardened slightly. Don't apologize for other people's prejudice. Margaret will get over it. She plucked 2 champagne flutes from a passing server. Here. Liquid courage. Marcus accepted the glass but didn't drink. I don't actually. I haven't had alcohol since my wife passed. I'm all Lily has. Something in Victoria's expression shifted, a momentary softening. Your daughter. How old is she? 8. Going on 30. He smiled despite himself. She's the reason I get up every morning. Before Victoria could respond, a hush fell over the nearby guests. The crowd parted to reveal an elderly man making his way toward them, leaning heavily on an ornate cane. Though his body appeared frail, his eyes were sharp and alert beneath bushy white eyebrows. The chairman, Victoria whispered, straightening her posture. Edward Westlake. My grandfather. Marcus had seen photographs of the company's founder in the lobby, but they hadn't captured the commanding presence of the man. Even in his 80s, Edward Westlake carried himself with the confidence of someone who had built an empire from nothing. Victoria. The old man's voice was surprisingly strong. Is this him? Victoria nodded. Grandfather, may I present Marcus Jenkins? Marcus, this is Edward Westlake, founder and chairman of Westlake Industries. Marcus extended his hand. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Edward ignored the outstretched hand. Instead, he stared at Marcus with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. The old man's eyes traveled over Marcus's features, lingering on his eyes, his jawline, the shape of his ears. My God, Edward whispered. It's true. And then, to the astonishment of everyone watching, none more than Marcus himself, Edward Westlake's eyes filled with tears. He stepped forward, abandoning his cane, and embraced Marcus in a fierce hug. My boy, he said, his voice breaking. My son. The champagne flute slipped from Marcus's fingers, shattering on the marble floor as the entire ballroom fell silent. The next hour passed in a blur. Security discreetly escorted Marcus, Victoria, and Edward to a private suite upstairs, away from the stunned guests and their buzzing phones. Marcus sat rigidly on a plush sofa, his mind racing to make sense of the chairman's words. There must be some mistake, he said for the 3rd time. My father was James Jenkins. He died when I was 12. Car accident. Edward sat across from him, his initial emotion now controlled behind a businessman's composure. James Jenkins was a good man. He raised you as his own, and for that, I will be eternally grateful to him. What are you saying? Marcus's voice rose. That my entire life has been a lie. Victoria, who had been silently observing from near the window, spoke up. Grandfather, perhaps we should give Mr. Jenkins some space to process this. Edward shook his head. No more time. I've wasted 34 years already. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on Marcus. Your mother's name was Eleanor. She worked as my executive assistant in 1991. We fell in love, though I was married at the time, unhappily, but married nonetheless. Marcus felt as though the floor was tilting beneath him. This is insane. When Eleanor discovered she was pregnant, my wife threatened to take everything, the company, my reputation, my relationship with my daughter, Victoria's mother. I was a coward. Edward's voice cracked. I gave Eleanor money to disappear. She married James Jenkins, a kind man who agreed to raise you as his own. If this is true, Marcus said, struggling to keep his voice steady, why come forward now? After all these years? Cancer. Edward stated it plainly. Terminal. When Victoria mentioned a janitor named Jenkins who had helped her, something made me ask for a photograph. You have your mother's eyes. I knew immediately. Marcus stood abruptly. I need to go. Lily, my daughter, she's waiting for me. Please, Edward said, rising with difficulty. I understand this is overwhelming. But I don't have much time left. I'd like to know my son. And my granddaughter. Marcus looked at the old man, this stranger claiming to be his father, and felt nothing but confusion and anger. I need to think. I need to go home. Victoria stepped forward. I'll have the car brought around. As Marcus turned to leave, Edward called after him. Marcus. I know I have no right to ask anything of you. But please consider taking a DNA test. If not for me, then for yourself. And for Lily. The mention of his daughter's name stopped Marcus in his tracks. He gave a curt nod without turning around, then followed Victoria out of the room. The ride back to Marcus's apartment was silent. Victoria sat beside him in the back of the luxury car, her face illuminated by the passing streetlights. Finally, as they neared his building, she spoke. I had no idea. I swear to you. Marcus stared out the window. I believe you. What will you do? He turned to look at her. In the dim light, with her perfect makeup slightly smudged and her professional facade cracked, Victoria Westlake looked surprisingly human. I don't know. Take the test, I guess. Find out the truth. The car pulled to a stop. Before Marcus could open the door, Victoria placed a hand on his arm. Whatever you decide, whatever the results show, your job is secure. I give you my word. Marcus almost laughed. His job seemed like the least important concern right now, but he appreciated the gesture. Thank you. As he climbed the stairs to his apartment, Marcus tried to imagine telling Lily that she might have a great-grandfather, a billionaire great-grandfather at that. The thought was so absurd he almost convinced himself the entire evening had been a dream. But the DNA test kit that arrived by courier the next morning proved it wasn't. 3 days later, Marcus sat in his small kitchen, staring at the email on his phone. The results had come back with stunning speed. Edward Westlake's influence, no doubt. 99.9998% probability of paternity. Edward Westlake was his biological father. Marcus set the phone down and buried his face in his hands. He thought of his mother, gone 10 years now. Had she wanted to tell him? Had his father, James, the man who raised him, known the truth? The questions piled up with no answers in sight. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. When he opened it, Victoria Westlake stood in the hallway, dressed in casual clothes, jeans and a simple blouse, looking nothing like the CEO he knew from work. May I come in? She asked. Marcus stepped aside, suddenly conscious of his modest apartment with its second-hand furniture and crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator. Victoria's eyes took in the space, lingering on a photograph of Marcus and Lily at the park. Is your daughter home? She's at a friend's birthday party. I'm picking her up in an hour. Victoria nodded, then handed him an envelope. Grandfather asked me to give you this. He's been admitted to the hospital. The doctors say it's a matter of weeks now. Marcus accepted the envelope but didn't open it. I got the test results. I know. He did too. Of course. Edward Westlake wouldn't wait for Marcus to share the information. He's my half-sister's daughter, Marcus said, working it out. Which makes you my niece. Victoria finished, a hint of a smile touching her lips. Apparently. The absurdity of it, that this powerful woman who signed his paychecks was actually his niece, finally broke through Marcus's shock. He laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. This is insane. A month ago, I was just worried about making rent and buying Lily new shoes for school. Now I'm supposedly the secret son of one of the richest men in the city. Victoria's expression grew serious. You should read his letter. Marcus sank onto the couch and opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and a legal document. He read the note first. Marcus. Asterisk words cannot express my regret for the choices I made before you were born. I robbed us both of a lifetime together out of fear and selfishness. I cannot reclaim those years, but I can try to secure your future and Lily's, asterisk. Asterisk the enclosed document names you as my son and heir to 1/3 of my estate, equal to Victoria's mother's share. Victoria will retain control of the company, she has earned that right through years of dedication, but you will have a seat on the board if you wish it, asterisk. Asterisk I understand if you want nothing from me. I would still like to meet my granddaughter before I go, but I will respect your decision either way, asterisk. With love and hope for forgiveness. Your father, Edward. Marcus set the letter down, his hands shaking. I can't accept this. Victoria sat beside him. Why not? It's your birthright. I didn't earn it. Any of it. Neither did I, Victoria said quietly. I was born into privilege because of choices made before my birth. Just as you were born without it for the same reason. Marcus looked at her, really seeing her for the first time. Behind the polished exterior of the CEO was a woman who had likely fought her own battles to be taken seriously, to prove her worth beyond her family name. What do you think I should do? He asked. Victoria seemed surprised by the question. I think you should do what's best for Lily. And I think you should meet him, at least once. Not for his sake, but for yours. Marcus nodded slowly. Will you come with me? To the hospital? Of course. She hesitated, then added, Uncle Marcus. Despite everything, Marcus smiled. Please don't ever call me that again. Edward Westlake's private hospital suite looked more like a luxury hotel room, with the medical equipment discreetly positioned in fresh flowers on every surface. The man himself seemed to have diminished since the gala, his skin more translucent, his breathing labored. But his eyes lit up when Marcus entered with Lily holding his hand. You came, Edward said, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nodded, guiding Lily forward. This is my daughter, Lily. Lily, this is your great-grandfather, Mr. Westlake. Lily, with a child's adaptability, showed none of the awkwardness the adults felt. You have the same eyes as Daddy, she observed, moving closer to the bed. Are you very sick? Edward smiled. Yes, little one. I'm very sick. But seeing you has made me feel much better. I brought you something. Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out a slightly squashed chocolate chip cookie wrapped in a napkin. Mrs. Rodriguez says cookies make everything better. Edward accepted the cookie with all the reverence of receiving a priceless gift. Mrs. Rodriguez is a very wise woman. As Lily chatted happily with Edward, Marcus watched the interaction with conflicted emotions. This frail old man was a stranger to him, yet undeniably his blood. The same blood that flowed in Lily's veins. Victoria stood beside him, her usual composure softened. He's different with her, she observed quietly. I've never seen him like this. Children have that effect, Marcus replied. They see people, not positions, or bank accounts. After a while, a nurse entered to check Edward's vital signs, and Victoria offered to take Lily to the hospital cafeteria for ice cream. Once they were alone, Edward gestured weakly for Marcus to come closer. Thank you, he said. For bringing her. For coming yourself. Marcus sat in the chair beside the bed. I'm still processing all of this. I don't know if I can forgive you for what you did to my mother. To me. Edward nodded weakly. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But, Marcus continued, I think about Lily. About what I would do to protect her, to give her a good life. I'd like to think I'd make better choices than you did, but I understand the impulse. A tear slipped down Edward's wrinkled cheek. Your mother loved you so much. She would be proud of the man you've become. The father you are. Marcus felt his own eyes growing damp. Did she ever try to contact you? After I was born? Edward shook his head. She honored our agreement. But she sent me a photograph of you once, when you were about 5. I've kept it in my wallet ever since. With trembling hands, he reached for the drawer of the bedside table. It's in there. Marcus opened the drawer and found a worn leather wallet. Inside was a faded photograph of